On behalf of the Resolutions Committee, thank you for joining us for the briefing of the proposed resolutions being considered at the 2017 Annual Convention and Expo. Resolutions are an important part of the advocacy work of National PTA, the 54 Congresses of PTA, and Regional Council and local PTAs. In conjunction with position statements approved by the Board of Directors, resolutions provide direction for advocacy and carry the weight of the delegates behind them to direct and inform efforts on behalf of children, families, and schools. My name is Debbie Tidwell, and I serve as the committee chair. The Resolutions Committee is represented by many dedicated volunteers: Marion Akins from Virginia, Scott Allen from the state of Texas, Marcus Ivey from Colorado, Yvonne Johnson of Delaware, Maxine Lewers from Florida, Jenny Mott from Maine, Allison Turner from Nevada, and Jessica Wansumida of Hawaii. We are supported and assisted by staff liaisons Beth Rorick and Heidi May. During this briefing, we will review each proposed resolution and review the convention resolutions process that includes the writing lab and filing of any proposed amendments to the resolve. Please remember that any and all debate on proposed resolutions will happen on the floor of convention during general meeting 2. This year, the Resolutions Committee is presenting 2 resolutions for the consideration of our delegates. The proposed resolutions will be presented in the order that they were approved by the Board of Directors. The first, Healthy Sleep for Adolescents, and the second, amendment to the resolution on the sale, resale, and destruction of firearms. These proposed resolutions can be found on the PTA website under the Advocacy tab. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Yvonne Johnson, who will present the Healthy Sleep for Adolescents resolutions.
Thank you, Debbie. The first proposed resolution to be considered is the Healthy Sleep for Adolescents resolution. This resolution was submitted to the committee by the National PTA Healthy Sleep for Adolescents Work Group, comprised of representatives from Florida PTA, Virginia PTA, Washington PTA, and members of the National PTA Resolutions Committee. Whereas research shows that adolescents require between 8.5 and 9.5 hours of sleep per night, yet more than 2/3 of U.S. teens average fewer than 8 hours of sleep on school nights. And whereas natural sleep rhythms change as children grow into adolescence, such that adolescents require an increased amount of sleep, have difficulty falling asleep before 11 o'clock p.m., and function optimally if permitted to remain asleep until 8 o'clock a.m. or later. And whereas studies have demonstrated that the duration of sleep is positively correlated with academic outcomes for secondary school students, and external factors including, but not limited to, large amounts of homework, robust extracurricular and work schedules, poor sleep routines, and early school start times can curtail the adolescent's sleep, thereby negatively affecting their ability to learn. And whereas education of stakeholders and establishment of school policies which support healthy sleep habits are effective means of addressing problems that result from sleep deprivation that hamper students' progress and development, including absenteeism, tardiness, and inattentiveness, and thereby improving student performance. And whereas research by the National Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the American Academy of Pediatrics also shows that inadequate sleep imperils adolescents by heightening risks for a multiplicity of threats to their health, safety, and well-being, including increased propensity for accidents resulting from impaired driving, depression, and suicidal tendencies, increased incidence of harmful behaviors, including sexual activity, and increased risks for obesity, cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, and other physical health problems in adulthood. And whereas evidence strongly indicates that earlier school start times are a key but modifiable contributor to insufficient sleep, as well as to natural sleep rhythms disruption. And whereas evidence proves that implementation of later school start times for adolescents affords students the opportunity to obtain optimal levels of sleep, thereby improving physical and mental health, safety, academic performance, and quality of life, and can be achieved with no change in the number of hours spent engaged in athletics, extracurricular activities, and homework after the schedule change. So therefore be it resolved that National PTA and its constituent associations educate youth, parents, educators, school personnel, school boards, athletic coaches, athletic organizations, state boards of education members, and the community about the positive impact that sufficient quality sleep has for teens' health, safety, academic success, and future earnings. And be it further resolved that National PTA and its constituent associations urge local stakeholders, policymakers, and appropriate national organizations to collaborate in order to develop solutions and policies which provide opportunities for sufficient quality sleep for teens reflective of their local community. And be it further resolved that National PTA work with the Department of Education to encourage states and school districts to incorporate standards regarding sleep needs and patterns, potential risks of insufficient sleep, signs of sleep-related difficulties, and healthy sleep habits into existing health, science, physical education, and other appropriate curricula. And be it further resolved, National PTA and its constituent associations support the efforts of school districts to optimize sleep for students and urge high schools and middle schools to aim for start times that allow students the opportunity to achieve optimal levels of sleep and to improve their physical and mental health, safety, academic performance, and the quality of life. This resolution advocates for the education of students, families, and all education and community stakeholders about the potential risks of insufficient sleep and the benefits of healthy sleep habits. In addition, collaboration about adolescent sleep needs and consensus building are key to successful implementation of the policies and improving the sleep duration for the teens. Our communities need to support the health and welfare of teens, including setting schedules and providing environments so that teens are able to meet their sleep needs. I would like to introduce Marcus Ivy, who will present the proposed amendment to the resolution on sale, resale, and destruction of firearms.
Thank you, Yvonne. Good evening, everyone. The next consideration is the amendment to a current resolution entitled Sale, Resale, and Destruction of Firearms. The amendment was submitted by the National PTA Legislation Committee. The Resolutions Committee will move to amend the resolution Sale, Resale, and Destruction of Firearms by inserting a new resolved clause. Resolved that the National PTA and its constituent bodies shall seek and support legislation for state and federal funding initiatives for the research of the causes and effects of gun violence, and be it further. All debate and any amendment proposed by delegates will only be allowed on the amended resolved clause, which is the insertion, and not on the body of the resolution. The entire resolution will read as follows. Sale, resale, and destruction of firearms. Whereas, due to its tremendous impact on the health and well-being of our youth, the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, has declared violence a public health problem which must be dealt with using many multidisciplinary strategies and approaches. And whereas one of the leading causes of death for teenagers in the United States is homicide with the use of handguns, rifles, and assault weapons. And whereas children and youth of all ages have been injured and killed in random shootings, traumatizing entire communities and causing children to live with constant fear and stress. And whereas in some municipalities, guns and other weapons which are confiscated in the commission of a crime through searches or turn-in programs are processed for investigative purposes, and when released by judges are then sold to gun shops for resale to the general public. And whereas the total number of weapons available is greatly increased by the resale of confiscated weapons, and whereas the street and home accessibility of these ever-increasing numbers of weapons contributes to the often dangerous and violent environment which surrounds many of our children and youth. Now therefore be it, and this is the amendment that is being proposed, resolved that the National PTA and its constituent bodies shall seek and support legislation for state and federal funding initiatives for the research of the causes and effects of gun violence, and be it further resolved that the National PTA and its constituent bodies shall seek and support legislation requiring that all guns and other weapons after being processed and released by the courts shall not merely be dismantled but destroyed. And be it further resolved that the National PTA and its constituent bodies support federal legislation to require a license to purchase a handgun, prohibit the sale of more than one handgun a month to any individual, prohibit gun possession by those convicted of spousal abuse and child abuse, require a special license for possession of a gun arsenal, require gun dealers to pay an increased annual license fee, mandate a federal tax on assault weapons, ammunition, and ban semi-automatic assault weapons, Saturday night special handguns, and non-sporting ammunition. In 1996, the NRA was successful in lobbying Congress to strip the Center for Disease Control's funding for gun violence research, which totaled about $2.6 million at the time. The initiative by Representative J. Dick, and for the past 20 years, the CDC has been forbidden from spending funds to advocate or promote gun control. While this is not a technical ban, it has resulted in a defunding by subsequent CDC directors. In order to fully understand this epidemic that our nation is gripped with, we need to first understand the causal relationships and the effect such violence has on our communities. Only by building upon research-based initiatives can we begin to address the root of American gun violence and pathways to decreasing that violence. Debbie will provide information about convention procedures and writing labs for the proposed resolutions.
Thank you, Marcus. All proposed resolutions will be considered during General Meeting 2, which will be held from 1:15 to 3 p.m. on Thursday, June 22nd, in the Paris Ballroom Concord at the Paris Las Vegas Hotel. For your information, this is the time schedule for convention, which includes the writing lab, submission of amendments, and presentation and debate at the general meeting. On Thursday, June 22nd, the resolutions writing lab is from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. in Versailles 3-4. The resolutions amendment submission deadline is at 12 noon in Champaign 1-2. And the general meeting, where we'll present the resolutions, is at 1:15 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the Paris Ballroom Concord. During the writing lab, which starts at 10 a.m. on Thursday the 22nd, committee members and representatives from the makers of all resolutions will be on hand to answer questions. This is an opportunity for delegates to prepare amendments to the proposed resolutions and collaborate with other delegates with similar recommendations. This is not a time for debate. Please note that you must take your completed amendments to the resolutions amendments submission table, which will be located in the foyer outside of Champaign 1-2. All amendments are due by 12 noon on Thursday, June 22nd. All amendments will be reviewed by the PTA parliamentarian for correct language and parliamentary procedure. And again, only amendments submitted in writing and in this manner will be considered during General Meeting 2. To be clear, again, all primary amendments for the proposed convention resolutions must be filed in advance of General Meeting 2 in order to be debated. The deadline, again, to submit resolution amendments is Thursday, June 22nd at noon at the Resolutions Committee table, which is located in the foyer outside of Champaign-2. Again, please remember that amendments to the resolution on the sale and resale and destruction of firearms will only be allowed on the proposed amendment, and debate will only be allowed on the amended resolved clause and not on the body of the resolution. According to the convention standing rules, each resolution can be debated for 20 minutes, and only on the resolved clause can be amended and only the resolved clauses can be amended before the vote is taken on the entire resolution. During the meeting, a proposed resolution will be moved for consideration by the committee chair. The rationale will be given by a member from the Resolutions Committee. The rationale for the Healthy Sleep for Adolescents resolution will be given by Yvonne Johnson, and the rationale for the sale, resale, and destruction of firearms will be given by Marcus Ivey. The first affirmative will be given from a microphone on the floor by a representative from the submitting PTA, committee, or collaborative group. The Healthy Sleep for Adolescents resolution affirmative will be given by Kathy Thrumston from Florida PTA, and the sale, resale, and destruction of firearms will be presented by Shannon Sevier, National PTA Legislation Committee Chair. Additional affirmatives and debate will be taken at the microphones until debate time has concluded. Any questions about the convention resolutions or procedures should be emailed to the Resolutions Committee at resolutions@pta.org. I would like to invite you to join us for our convention workshop entitled Join Us, Turning a PTA Resolution into Your Action Plan. It's at 3 p.m. to 4:15 p.m. on Friday, June 23rd in Bailey's Jubilee 3. We hope you can join us for this workshop. We'd like to thank you from the Resolutions Committee for joining us on this webinar. We hope that you're able to come to convention. We look forward to seeing you at that time. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.